All
We're live.
right, we are live. We're doing things a little bit differently today. We're doing a Bulwark Pod segment live on YouTube because there's so much news happening on the Hill. I'm Tim Miller. I've got the publisher of this here Bulwark, Sarah Longwell, along with me. How you doing, Sarah?
I'm great, buddy. How are you?
I am good. I just
Did you
finished.
stay up all night? Did
I
you stay up
did.
all night and follow the various machinations of the bill?
I didn't. I just read the briefings from our friends Joe Perticone and Andrew Egger here and the Punch Bowl guys this morning. I was reading E. Jean Carroll's book last night because we had a kind of sultry conversation for the pod today. So anyway, that's a little break for people from the Medicaid rate cuts convo. I want to just lay the groundwork for where we are as we sit here right now talking. There is, I guess they were supposed to start voting like 15 minutes ago. It seems like Republicans are indicating that they have the votes for this. There were 4 Republican senators that were iffy. Rand Paul concerned about debt, Tom Tillis, Murkowski, and Collins on Medicaid and some of those other issues. It seems like Murkowski has cut a deal, and so she would be the 50th vote, and then J.D. Vance would be a tiebreaker as stuff develops as we're talking here. We'll keep people posted, but I just want to talk to you first just about the biggest picture state of play. This is a ridiculous way to do a bill. Andrew wrote about this morning. Senate Republicans are trying to pass this law this morning, even though they were still writing it overnight. Brian Schatz, senator from Hawaii, summed up the state of play this way: one of the world's worst legislative processes I've ever seen. No bill text, still almost $1 trillion out of Medicaid, a subsidy to move a state space shuttle to Texas, a statue garden, $4 trillion in debt. Hospitals will close. Like trash. What is happening with the process here?
Well, it's called reconciliation, and we could really use a reconciliation on reconciliation because this is a little procedure that's been around since the 70s. I think sometimes people call it like the Byrd rule because I think he was the one who came up with it. Robert Byrd, he was one of the guy who was in the Klan when he
Robert Byrd was West Virginia.
The,
Is that right, though? There's
West
another
Virginia?
Byrd. There's Henry Byrd. We got to figure that out. You keep talking while I figure out the Byrd rule.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just lay my
You were right. It was Robert Byrd.
Robert.
You were right.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
The thing is it isn't until really modern times here, right? It's basically a maneuver to get around the filibuster, which I would just say, as somebody who's has been in the past a bit of a traditionalist, somebody who likes, to force bipartisanship out of people, which is what the filibuster is supposed to do, right? It's supposed to make you get some consensus. Instead, everybody, you might as well just get rid of the filibuster. Why have it if people are just going to use this reconciliation, which is a budgetary process? It's like a budgetary process that they use. And then what they do is they jam everything in to one bill. It's the reason that Trump has called it the big, beautiful bill, is because it's we took literally everything we want to do and we put it all in one place. And now we're going to jam it through with this little maneuver on this budget. And it's a terrible way to live because they are still right now, they are writing the bill as they go. It's not like horse trading the way they used to do it to kind of get to consensus. It's just pure bribes and carve-outs for people so that they will go ahead and jam this thing through with them.
Yeah, speaking of just how just absurd this process is, I just have this coming across the wire. Senator Jim Justice says that the delay here is because senators are haggling with the parliamentarian over last-minute handwritten legislative text. They're literally
on napkins and
on the margins. It's like the original deal that Murkowski had gotten to get when it seemed like she was going to be for this originally, before that kind of unraveled last night, was a Medicaid and SNAP carve out for non-contiguous states. Just Alaska.
Things
and Hawaii,
are really different when you're out there. It's a whole different ballgame.
And then that didn't pass the parliamentarians' muster, so it ends up doing this thing where the Alaska doesn't get the Medicaid carve out, but they do get a SNAP carve out. But now it's a bunch of other states, and it's based on their error rate. So the people that are claiming that they want to get rid of waste, fraud, and abuse are now rewarding the states that have the biggest error rate in SNAP because there's some pretense then that they can't figure out how to get the food stamps to be the whole thing is it's a preposterous Frankenstein joke. And Lisa Murkowski, I guess, is going along with this because she just is focused on getting stuff for Alaska.
Yeah, so let's talk about Murkowski for just 1 second.
Okay.
There's a lot of ways that Trumpism corrupts people. It is obviously sometimes people are like Trumpism's not a thing because Trump has no real guiding ideology. That's true. Like it's not like when people say Trumpism, they're like, and this is the philosophy that we all agree on. Trumpism, though, like it's forces he unleashed on our politics. And one of them is, I'm going to get mine and the rest of you be damned. And so I think that Lisa Murkowski might be telling herself, because a lot of people tell her this. Like I've met Lisa Murkowski a number of times. She's been one of the moderates. She's often who you turn to in moments of Republicans really doing something insane. Like you look at Collins, you look at Murkowski, you look at Tillis, maybe you look at Cassidy, and you say, you guys are normal. You know this is wrong. And they do, which is why they seek carve-outs. Why is she seeking a carve-out for her own state? But I want to tell Lisa Murkowski something. As somebody who's admired her, defended her, really been somebody who pushes for the need for there to be moderates still in the Senate and the House, what is the point of you being a moderate if you're going to vote for RFK? If you're going to take carve-outs as a bribe just for your people, if you're going to sell out the rest of the country, for the people who think the moderates are going to save us, and me as somebody who's long believed that they were important, if all it takes is a carve-out for your own state, like you don't understand your full job, and you too have been corrupted by Trumpism. You too have drank this particular Kool-Aid of, as long as I get what I need for my people, then everyone else can go screw off. And it is deeply disappointing if that's what happens.
Yeah, it's the Murkowski thing. It's like I guess she still has an opportunity to do the John McCain. We're sitting here, we're waiting for the parliamentarian and the rules, and we've had dramatic moments in the past where a moderate has given the thumbs down. So, folks, maybe folks call Lisa Murkowski's office right now or send them that little live clip of Sarah, try to encourage her to do the right thing. But I just. I mean, it also is there's another element of this that I think is at play, which is like the interpersonal. I always go back to the high school cafeteria explanation of all this. Yeah. Which is like when John Thune gets the leadership, gets Senate majority leader, he isn't like they are friends, right? Like they have worked together on bills. You see, we're moving to the Senate floor here now, so you can see kind of what's happening there. Though, Barry, if you can mute that. And it feels like there's almost it's favor trading on two levels, right? It's like I'm getting some favors for Alaskans, which is my job, but I'm also working with and cutting deals with John Thune here. And it kind of compartmentalizes what's happening with this bill and takes out the bigger picture of the damage, whether you are concerned about the debt or whether you're concerned about all the money that's going to the ICE prisons that are now going to be bigger than the federal prison system, or, you're concerned about the Medicaid cuts and SNAP cuts in other parts of the states. And I think that's what's happening here. One other funny thing, and funny in the dark comedy way, that happened last night with this bill, an excise tax on wind and solar came in. Now, it's hard for me to judge this claim, but like the wind and solar people are freaking out, like that this tax would be devastating to them. Lisa Murkowski, it wasn't part of any consideration. Lindsey Graham, I don't know where it came from. Like that is how haphazard this process is. Like even if you thought it was a good bill, which it doesn't seem like anybody really does, like it's like they're just doing this by the seat of their pants to such a degree they don't know where some of this stuff is from.
And this is like a whole industry, like an emerging industry in our country that has like the government has been participating with for a long time. It's got real infrastructure. They would just be like ending it. Yeah. And here, I don't know if it is a anti-Elon thing that Trump wanted stuck in there, because everybody's like, I have no idea where this came from. And think about that is one example amid, I don't know, 3,000 things that are in there where they're just
talking right now. 6 minutes ago, they're saying that they removed that excise tax, but like this is what we're doing. Like we're just doing this live. Like we're coming to the floor, the parliamentarians working at stuff on a napkin. We're putting taxes in and taking them out. It's ridiculous. I mean, like they haven't even read the bill.
They have no idea what's in it. And this is what's interesting is, as well as I do, that one of the biggest attack ads ever levied on Nancy Pelosi from the Republicans was, we're going to have to read it to find out what's in it about the ACA. But the thing about reconciliation, too, that it really robs the American people, speaking of the ACA, that bill had to be debated for such a long time, right? And they went through different provisions and like
hearings.
Yeah, and they held hearings. There was like the death panel thing. So the American people actually had time to give it some due consideration. And they acted like serious grown-ups who had difference of opinions, and they heard from industry and whatever. None of that's happening here. Like, unless somebody has the ability to call somebody, like somebody over at the Wind and Solar Association had to call up and be like, are you going to crater our whole industry? Like, and they had to go find, I don't know, Joni Ernst in a state where like they have a lot of wind and like say,
who put this
do
in?
something, like get it out of there. And that's how the whole thing is being crafted across a million different issues. Elon's kind of right.
Elon is right about this. I want to get to how uncomfortable it makes you feel with Elon in a minute. I have two other things I want to get to. JD Vance first is just, the most unbearable person in all of public life. He did this tweet thread last night that says this about the bill. It's not really a great sign when the vice president of the United States has to offer this level of caveat about why people should pass a bill. You would think that the VP would be a cheerleader for like the one piece of legislation they're actually going to pass this year. No, this is his argument for the bill. The thing that will bankrupt this country more than any other policy is flooding the country with illegal immigrants and then giving those migrants generous benefits. The OBBB fixes this problem, and therefore it must pass. Everything else, the CBO score, the proper baseline, the minutia of the Medicaid policy, is immaterial compared to the ICE money and immigration enforcement provisions. Could there be possibly a more cynical argument for passing this bill than what the vice president offered?
No, because, dude, so do a standalone bill to fund ICE. Like, this isn't hard.
People proposed that actually back in January. Some of the immigration hardliners said they should do that.
Yeah. So this is when you say like this is no way to make law. It's such a cynical, like, here's what I hate. I hate when people who are pretty smart act really, really stupid to do this. Like, he knows perfectly well the idea that you have to pass a gajillion trillion dollars in new debt on a bill that nobody's read, that is about giveaways to rich people and hurting people that Trump doesn't like, and that we have to do it all because there's one provision around funding ICE, and that's the only way it can get passed. It's preposterous. It's the silliest thing I've ever heard.
It is preposterous. And I'm stealing multiple things from Andrew Egger today. So people should sign up for his newsletter if they haven't, Morning Shots with Bill Kristol. But he sent this funny tweet that's like, wait a minute. So the $3 trillion that we're adding to the debt is immaterial, but the $8 billion that is going to ICE is the thing that matters. Like, it's stupid on its face, and it's condescending, and it's also hateful. And the actual substance of the ICE policy is also terrible. They're putting a ton of money into jails. So great news for the private prison industry, for ICE prisons. And they are not giving any money for new judges. So if you look at the whole context of this, like what they're going to do is they just want to have the money in the budget to advance their no due process agenda, where they just nab people off the street and hold them in cells. So like that is the part of the bill that JD Vance is like, it's so important that we are able to nab people off the street and hold them in cells that we should not care about the debt busting part of the bill or the cuts to Medicaid and food stamps.
I love the term immaterial. Like, like the idea that you're saying it's immaterial. You don't be silly and pay attention to all of these other things. The rest of it is immaterial. Okay, well, if it's immaterial, take it out. Do the other thing. It's no big. Here's the thing about the judges. We don't have to go like down a huge rabbit hole in immigration, but I'll tell you, even in Trump 1.0, they understood that to deal with the border, the number one thing you needed was a lot more immigration judges to process people in and out, like to be able to handle one of the reasons that people sort of disappear. Sorry, there's a siren going by. One of the reasons that people end up doing like the no show and, just kind of like, is because their court dates are so far away. Like it's impossible to get in front of a judge. And so like by the time they get in front of a judge, they've been here for a very long time. And so like a sensible policy, just like one that made sense, like a common sense one would be that you would fund a ton of new judges. But no, you're right. What they want is to fund a bunch of places to just store people without due process.
One more thing on JD the prick is he tells this story, like he tries to make it seem like there is a coherent narrative for how he went MAGA, like the scales fell from his eyes and he saw that nationalist populism was better than the old corporate republicanism and the neocon republicanism. So that's why he started to care more about immigration and about working class Americans. But here's the thing. In 2017, that aforementioned John McCain thumbs down vote, JD was on John McCain's side. This was in 2017, after Trump was president, after he suggested he might be Hitler. And he wrote this. The Senate bill offers a bit more to the needy, but still leaves many unable to pay for basic services. And the rosiest projections of each version, millions will be unable to pay for basic health care. This should not be acceptable. So it's like during his populist conversion between 2017 and now, he also somehow has decided that he cares less about healthcare for poor people. Like the whole thing, you know what I mean? It belies the narrative that he wants to tell about his conversion in a major way.
Yeah, this is where there's a bunch to unpack here in terms of both Republicans having to come to terms with the fact that their new voters rely on these social services, right? The previous Republican Party was all about fiscal discipline in a way where they were like, look, we're going to be, clear-eyed, which meant somewhat cold about things in order to try to like make these programs solvent. Like there were these academic conversations. This was part of the Republican Party when we talked about it. But now, right, the Republican Party, their voters, and I've heard this a ton in focus groups where people are like, I don't want to lose my stuff. Like, I'm glad Trump's doing things, taking on trans things and saying there's two genders, but like, I don't want giveaways to rich people that are going to cut my benefits. I rely on those benefits. And actually, I'll play some focus group sound for you in a minute. And so part of this is, and this is where Trump is such a weird animal because he talks like a populist, but he still governs in some ways like the worst version of the old Republican Party, right? Which is, I'm going to give total tax cuts only to my wealthy friends. Like, this is true. The Democrats' critique of this is absolutely true, that there is the thing that Republicans are panicked about right now. The reason they are jamming this thing through is that if they think if these tax cuts expire on their watch and their tax rates go up for their voters, that's the only failure, right? But that's what they don't seem to be thinking, is that it's going to be a massive failure for them when so many of their voters lose SNAP and Medicaid benefits. Yeah. And also I want to just talk about JD Vance's, I don't know that it's what did you call it? I would like to call it a
conversion story. I call it the Saul to Mar-a-Lago journey.
Okay. I would like to call it his transition. Okay. Because
gender affirming care.
Yeah, I think, and that's what he's getting right now. He's getting his transition care, where he basically and look, the thing is, it's not a new story that JD Vance was a different person. He was one of us back in the day.
Literally, he was like a never Trump blogger, and he was literally one of us.
Yeah, Trump was Hitler. The whole but this idea, right, of his transition was that he really cared about poor people. This is not a bill that supports poor people. It's just not.
I want to play your aforementioned focus group audio, and then kind of talk about on the other side what you think the political implications of this are going to be if it continues on this trajectory and they jam this through on a 50-50 vote. Let's listen.
It's not going to affect me today, but it's going to affect a lot of people in 4 to 8 years from now. I think there's good and bad in it, but I think all bills, you're never going to see a bill where it's just good in there. If you sit there and once you read into something that's going on, you're going to see 8 things you like and 4 things you don't like in it. At the end of the day, I'm not giving Trump $1 million or $10 million. Someone else is. And when they ask him for a favor to do something, he's going to have to do that. I don't have the money to be a lobbyist like that. So at the end of the day, I just, I just hope that they take some of the things out of it. And I hope, that they think about the everyday American in it.
One thing I like is if you do some gig work, the 1099 K is going to be reversed. Right now, when Biden, it was $600 you had to report. They're going to bring it back to 200 to 20,000 with this bill. The one thing I'm concerned about is my father and my mother and my uncle. They're all in their 80s. They count on that Medicaid, and if they end up in a nursing home, the Medicaid usually pays for that service. If they cut that, that could be a problem in the future.
It's not going to affect me today, but
those were the wrong clips, Bear. Those are fine clips, but those aren't the ones I sent you. So could you play the ones I sent you, please?
Who are we trying to listen to, Sarah? Which focus groups? Tell us about which focus groups we're listening to.
So these are all Biden to Trump voters, right? So these kind of swingier voters. And the clips I wanted to have Barry listen to, which if he's got them, I want him to play them. Do you have them, Bear? All right. This is just like live TV where
Sarah, just tell us about it. You just maybe do the voice.
There's a woman who it's important for people to hear her because she is somebody who talks about raising her kids on the $900 she gets from the government. And she is very clear that the cuts to SNAP and Medicaid, like she is glued to her TV right now. This woman, she has read absolutely everything about this bill because she's so scared about what's going to happen if these cuts go through. And she voted for Trump this last time, and she was the one who actually was saying,
I got the
"Hey, look, I like what Trump's done on a couple places, but on the trans stuff." And JVL actually has made real mincemeat out of this woman. But the other clips that are in there were indicative.
I have the audio.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Draw SSI disability, I get Medicaid and I get food stamps, and I don't draw money for my kids, okay? But I'm supposed to live off $900 a month from the government. And with them turning around and cutting Medicaid, I'm already struggling to pay for medications. They're going to take and take and take until there's nothing left.
More requirements for Medicaid, I think, was good. And also the overtime, no taxes on overtime and tips, I thought was good too. I know it increases the national debt, but I think if we get some of these programs like under control, that'll eventually even out.
I'm not quite sure about the budget increases and the debt ceiling, putting everything into one bill. It seems kind of crazy to try to push all these things through at the same time without people picking and choosing what they think is not good.
I draw SSI disability, I get Medicaid.
So the first woman was the one I really wanted to play because I think that she's a really good example of people who are part of the Trump coalition now, right? Yeah. And there's a lot of people like her. But the other clips are also people you kind of have, it's an interesting, you've sort of got the Elon wing of the Republican Party where people are concerned about it adding to the debt. And then you've got the personal consequences wing of the Republican Party who are like, no, this is going to impact me. I don't like it. I don't care about it. Then there's also the sort of third category of people who I would be like, I don't know. I kind of trust Trump. I think it's going to be fine. I hope it's going to be fine. Like fingers crossed, but my parents are old. And so I hope that, they don't get kicked off Medicaid. But the overall thing is the voters don't like this bill. Like Trump voters don't like this bill. Like he doesn't have a cheerleading section on this. Like the people who are voting right now to pass it are not listening to their voters. Voters, no, I can't. The bill is so unpopular, and people, and it's unpopular basically based on what people know about it, which is they're still like, I don't know everything that's in it, so I'm worried. They know it cuts Medicare and Medicaid. They know it gives tax cuts to rich people, and like, there's nobody who's there saying, and they know how much it costs. Like, then they know, and they're against this kind of reconciliation, these big bills. Like I've heard this a lot in focus groups where people are saying, why do we do it this way? Like, this is crazy. And so I just, I can't think of a time when you've had something that is like this much of a unpopular thing that these guys are going to jam through only to, like, they know this is going to be actual nightmare fuel for them in 2026. Like this gives Democrats just a perfect position going into 26.
How do you square that? Like what you're hearing the focus groups from? I mean, the top line numbers on this bill are bad, but like there's some other polls came out recently that like show that people really also don't know a lot about it yet. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's what Republicans are banking on. On the one hand, that like maybe that they can sell it better. They do have ads running on this right now. I've been seeing some of them down in Louisiana, but at the same time, they're jamming it through because they also seem conscious of the fact that the more people learn about it, the more they're going to dislike it. So I don't know. How do you kind of square all that?
I mean, I said this on TNL, but there's like one of the I can't remember who the legislator was who said this, but he was like, you got to get these things passed fast because otherwise they're like a dead cat on a front porch or a dead cat on the steps. Like the longer it sits out there, the more it stinks. And so this is. The more voters learn about it. This is why Trump has really tried to focus of the gajillion things that are in there. There's only a few things people really know. Cuts Medicaid, tax cuts for the rich, and the no tax on tips stuff, right? Like you heard some people say that like, oh, it's good for gig workers. That's the main thing. This bill does a lot of things. And it's going so fast that I think even people who are really experts in this, like we've got some very smart experts in healthcare and John Cohn. I mean, we're all in our Slack, and he is. I'm not sure there's anybody who knows more than John Cohn. And like Joe Perticone's basically sleeping up at the Capitol, and we're all in Slack right now, being like, what does it say? What's in there? Like what? Because not only it was unclear always, and now it's more unclear because they're changing things while it's going through.
Yeah, one thing I just want to follow up on because I mentioned it yesterday on the pod. Speaking of like all of these changes that are just happening like overnight, was there was this horrible provision that was going to ban states from regulating AI for a certain number of years, or else they weren't going to be able to get any money from the federal government. That did get stripped last night, 99-1. It was a Ted Cruz provision, so. I guess people don't really. It doesn't seem like people like Ted Cruz that much. 99-1 against. So that was a pleasant change. All right, we're still waiting to kind of see if there's any additional developments on the actual vote here. But in the meantime, the Trump-Elon feud reignited this morning. Bannon suggested that they need to nationalize SpaceX. Again, that's something he's been asking for a while. Elon replied to Bannon that Bannon needs to go back to prison for a long time. So they're still at it. And then Trump was asked about deporting Elon outside the White House this morning, and we're going to break our no Trump audio rule just because this is too delicious to miss. Let's listen.
The rest. We got a lot of hostages back, but we're going to talk about that. I don't know. I think we'll have to take a look. We might have to put Doge on Elon. You know what Doge is? Doge is the monster that might have to go back and eat Elon. Wouldn't that be terrible? He gets a lot of subsidies, Peter. But Elon's very upset that the EV mandate is going to be terminated. And you know what? When you look at it, not everybody wants an electric car. I don't want an electric car. I want to have maybe gasoline, maybe electric, maybe a hybrid, maybe someday a hydrogen. If you have a hydrogen car.
The dentures are out. Really sorry. He's sounding more and more like the SNL version of himself, I think, with the dentures there. But I thought it was interesting. There are a couple interesting things I noticed there. Doge is a monster in Trump's view. And the monster, he wants to go back and maybe eat Elon and go after his subsidies. I think that was kind of revealing. I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, I like it when he asks the reporters, you've heard of Doge? Know what Doge is?
Yeah.
And then he says something that maybe makes it seem like he doesn't know what Doge is. Right. It was unclear exactly what he defined. It's a monster that could eat Elon. I mean, I guess what he means, I mean, it's just a threat to take away the subsidy. I mean, And when you say it's revealing, I mean, I think what's never been clear is when Elon had his hands all over the federal government, like what did he do? What did he do in there? And I think that Trump has spent he's only been there for 5 months, and Doge was like central to what he did for the first few things, right? Kept putting Elon in the White House. And now Doge is I guess something he's going to wield against Elon, or it's a bad thing. It was unclear to me. What do you think he was talking about?
I think Trump sees Doge as something that caused him pain and that he wasn't really that bought in on.
Yeah.
Honestly, like I think that Trump kind of saw it as Elon is a really rich guy that helped me win. And he's sucking up to me and talking about how I'm the greatest. And he got us into the outer space, and he's like a real successful guy, right? And people respect it. And so Trump is susceptible to that kind of flattery, as we know,
Sure.
right? And so I think that it's like he felt like, okay, well, I got this really smart guy that wants to come and be my shadow president, and he thinks that there's a lot of fraud and waste, and I don't really like these deep state officials anyway. So if he wants to cause them trouble, who cares? And I'll just let him loose. But that, like, it was never really that wasn't part of Trump's agenda. Like when you hear Trump talking on the campaign trail about deportations and tariffs and revenge and the 2020 election, like, you know what Trump cares about. Like, he might have mentioned cutting spending before. It's not like he never mentioned it, but that was not what Trump cared about. And I think that Elon got in there and it became a fucking hassle for him. You know, people were mad at him. People were asking, he's like, why? And then all of a sudden Elon's calling him a pedophile. And then it's like, wait a minute, you know? And so to me, it seems like he's flipped on the whole thing, right? Like the whole thing is kind of tainted, and he sees it as a political loser for him, and he's mad at Elon over it. Anyway, that's my psychotherapy for Donald Trump for the day.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good. I do think it's interesting the way that the mafia stuff, right? The way he's going to wield the federal government against Elon. And to be clear, he backed Elon off the first time they had one of these fights with these threats. Yeah. Elon kind of did shouldn't have gone there. It was too much. I went too far. And I don't know if he just like started hitting the ketamine pipe. Is ketamine something you take out of a pipe? I don't know.
Snort usually, I think. Not an expert, okay. But my understanding is snorting. Yeah.
So I don't know if he's back on the ketamine or like if this is actually a deeply held principle, but part of what Elon is doing right now is he's back in the like, I will primary every Republican who votes for this bill. And it was like, if it's the last thing I do on this earth, which is very intense, Elon feels, but I'm like rooting for you, buddy. You should do that.
Do you feel this is what I wanted to get out of you. Do you feel any mixed emotions about Elon now at all? And you really turned on him very harshly, but now he's kind of speaking your language in a lot of ways. Elon is concerned about the deficit. Elon thinks maybe we need a centrist third party. Elon thinks Donald Trump's a pedophile. You and Elon are starting to come into alignment in a few areas. Does that make you at all?
Yeah, this is like that Onion, thing, like worst person in the world makes a decent point.
Makes a great point.
And so like, I think he's right about the fact that, and I am enjoying watching him exact pain from them, because the fact that he has elevated how much spending there is in this bill, what it's going to do to the debt and deficit. You're right. Like, yeah. I was a super moderate Republican, but one thing I care a lot about is the debt and the deficit. And I think that Republicans should be shamed constantly by their former, comrade in arms for the way that they're blowing up the debt and deficit, because people should know that it's all talk with them. It's all talk, the Doge stuff, all of it. I think that similarly, there's some emotional stuff on Elon's side, though, where he felt like he was trying to do something on Doge, and like he got embarrassed by it. Like he went in there and actually couldn't do any of the things that he said. And then the administration Trump hung him out to dry on it. And so now he's like back coming for Trump. So I do think they are taking it personally, but I also think Elon has realized that Trump holds, and I think actually maybe I have too, slightly. Trump holds more cards than Elon. Like I always sort of think, man, Elon's got a lot. He's got a lot of money. He's threatened to primary people. He basically bought Trump out this last go round, like spent, just so much money on the election. I wouldn't that be scary? But like Trump does have a lot of leverage, because Trump it's not like Trump cares about Congress. And so like he can just go in there and snip, snap, snip Elon's contracts those things. Remember when Trump was doing everyone should have a Tesla? They had Teslas out on the front lawn of the White House. And I was like, this is absurd. And now Trump's like, I don't want an electric car. Who wants an electric car? That's garbage.
On to your point about the Republicans claim to care about the debt being shamed, I think we should just take a moment to specifically shame Ron Johnson. Ron Johnson got out on his high horse talking about how this bill is a debt bomb and how he could never support it and how he got into Congress because he was worried about irresponsible budgeting. And he went on the All In podcast with Elon's pals and they all buttered him up and washed his balls and was like, Ron, you're the one real guy. You're the one straight talker in Washington. Where's Ron today? Voting for the bill. Voting for the bill. So he learned the lesson about, I guess, watch the Elon Trump feud. So no principled fiscal hawks to be had, even though I guess if this bill does pass, it'll go back to the House and we'll have a chance to be disappointed again by the remaining 3 people who claim to be fiscal hawks in the House, like Chip Roy, I guess. But we'll see.
So here, let's talk about the House for just one second, because part of what's interesting is there's a bunch of people who've already said no. I mean, a bunch, like Chip Roy. They say like they're already no's on the Senate version of the bill.
Yeah, right? Ralph Norman from South Carolina just said that.
And so they don't have a lot of room.
No.
But what's interesting is the dynamic is kind of flipped in the House versus the Senate. In the Senate, there are people that we think of as moderates that we think could have pulled a John McCain and, knocked this bill out. On the House side, though, it is like the genuine fiscal hawks. It's Massey, whatever. And genuine. But some of them hold out. Like they will create trouble.
Yeah. Massey will for sure. We'll see if anyone
Massey will for sure. So I think that this is not the last time we're going to have to do a live stream watching people vote, because it will be, the wing of a hair's breadth of whether or not this thing passes the House. And it's going to change again.
Yeah, it won't be the last time today. So once again, for folks that are just tuning in on the live, this is a part of the Bulwark podcast for today. We're going to continue to live stream here in a little bit once I have to hop off with some of our other friends, JVL, Jonathan Cohn, who's kind of an expert on the bill. Sam Stein might pop on. Sarah's going to hang out and I might come back. We'll see how things go. But the latest thing we have right here is the Senate parliamentarian knocked down a handwritten parenthetical notation in the Murkowski-focused Medicaid provision that created a special preference for an Alaskan Medicaid fund, according to some Democrats. So, I don't know Lucy with a football around here, but interesting that Murkowski hasn't gotten everything that she wanted as far as the carve-outs are concerned, and they need her vote. I mean, they either need her or Collins, it seems like, or I guess Tom Tillis or Rand Paul. Like that's it. That's the 4. They need one of those 4. And Murkowski was the one that at least at the time of we're taping this looked the most optimistic. So we'll see. Sarah, before we sign off here, I've got 2 real quick questions for you, and then we'll continue kind of live coverage with a different group in a minute. So stick around. But does this make you at all less worried about the fascism? It's the only green line green shoot I have about this whole thing. The only silver lining is like, these people don't seem like very effective authoritarians right now.
I mean, Congress, though, what it is no. Trump is the authoritarian, and what Congress has done is assume a supine position so that his authoritarianism can run right over them, right? They basically don't do their jobs. If they stood up and killed his bill and said, we're not going to give this to you, I would feel like, hey, that's good. That is a green shoot. But the Senate moderates, here's the thing. The Senate moderates roll over for this and Murkowski votes for it. And look, there's other Senate moderates that have already rolled, like Cassidy. Hey, Cassidy,
former doctor.
How's it going with the vaccines? Are we happy with? Did Maha keep their promise here about how they're going to take vaccines seriously? No. The moderates go elect Democrats. Like there is no point to the moderates. They do not do anything to stop the authoritarianism. So no, I'm not sanguine about that at all.
Final topic. Bill Crystal made me mention this to you. He sent me a message and he said, you have to ask Sarah to close the pod about the Trump fragrances. Bill quoted the Merry Wives of Windsor and saying it must be the rankest compound of villainous smell that ever offended the nostril. I thought that was a very Bill Crystal pull right there. Trump is now selling Chanel, not Chanel smelling, but Chanel priced fragrances. And I don't know, does that like fill you with despair or laughter? The idea that the president is such a fucking hack, grifter, late night salesman.
Well, this is always the tough thing about Trump is he gives you something that you want to laugh at. But if you think about it for a second, you're like it's too embarrassing to contemplate. The president of the United States, phones, shoes, fragrances. And it's like Trump 45 and 47. It's like, it smells like winning. Like, I am embarrassed to live in a country where there are people who would buy that. You should feel ashamed. I don't care what it smells like. Maybe it does smell like winning. Maybe it's really good. The fact that you would purchase something from this guy, like, that's the least American thing I can think of. Americans should mock this kind of stuff.
Imagine what J.D. Vance would say about a third world country's leader selling a fragrance. I think we all just know what would happen there and how they treat those folks. But that's what it is in ours. We have our own Banana Republic, a MAGA Banana Republic. Everybody on YouTube, stick around. We've got more people coming in. I've got to go pop off. And for the podcast listeners, appreciate you. We'll see you back here tomorrow. YouTube folks, stick around. We're going to keep going.
Hey, best friend.
Oh, look who's here.
I have been watching you guys chomping at the bit, I've been trolling you in the comments on YouTube.
You are.
Asking to send me in.
I don't know how to read the comments.
Send me in. Bring me in. Very disappointed you didn't do the voice, Sarah.
Which voice is that?
The Cletus voice.
Why would I do that
Jonathan
voice?
Cohn, because you had that when Barry couldn't find the audio and they were hoping to.
Oh yeah, I could see how you would go there.
Can you just do the voice and recreate her?
No.
Jonathan Cohn, it's all happening right now. JD Vance, it still amazes me that tub of evil and lard is the vice president of the United States. That's a wild thing to contemplate. So he's breaking the tie and we are getting over the hump. And I guess here's my question to both of you. Are they clearly what they all panicked about today was, oh, short. Is there anything we can do to make sure that we only cut Medicaid for the bad people?
Yeah.
And so, we'll see if we can carve things out for non-contiguous states, or we'll do a special bailout fund for rural hospitals. Right? And I kind of joked in our Slack this morning, why not just say that, if you're a registered Republican and you can prove that you're a registered Republican in good standing, then your Medicaid doesn't get cut. Like, why not just go to, because that's what this is really about. And this is, I guess, a reconciliation problem, Jonathan, right? Their hands are a little bit tied in what they can do, but they've been working pretty hard to make sure that they can try to bail out their voters. Are they going to succeed?
Well, so, as you say, the rules of reconciliation, so you can't just give a state a favor, and you certainly can't just give a favor to voters, people with certain voters. You have to have some category, right? That's why this was going to be non-contiguous states. And the parliamentarian said, no, I can see you're just trying to help Alaska here. Now, I will tell you, this is like breaking news. Like literally 5 minutes ago, as I was logging on, the word came that they had come up with some and they had come up with some new version of this that was somehow going to help Alaska and I guess a few other states. And we don't know what it is because, again, I'm sure you all have been talking about this in this insane process for passing this bill. Stuff is getting put together at the last minute. They were passing back and forth handwritten notes on the floor with the parliamentarian going back and forth, and there were some people couldn't read each other's handwriting. I mean, this is how we now pass a bill that, will have affect millions of people's of health insurance, blow up the deficit, yada, yada, yada. Anyway, apparently, whatever they came up with for Alaska and whatever other states would have gotten grouped in it, so it didn't look like it was for Alaska, apparently the parliamentarian threw that out too. So I don't even know where we're going with this. I mean, there was the big wraparound amendment, which is supposed to be the final thing you put in, before you have to come up to final passage. And I got C-SPAN up in the corner here right now, apparently passed. So I think we're now on the bill. But I guess maybe Murkowski's going to vote yes anyway. I don't know. But they did get the rural hospital package in there. And that is one, and that's one way to get some of these votes. But yeah, I mean, I think, they're going to do whatever they can and figure out whatever they have to do within the rules to sort of spare some of their voters what they want to do to the rest of the country, which I guess is kind of par for the course now.
But JDO, they're not to this sort of theory that you have of like they're only trying to hurt, blue state voter. Like, not really. Like, the Medicaid cuts are going right at Trump voters. Like, which is why I played that clip from that woman. Like, she's a Trump voter. She relies on SNAP benefits. Like, and I'm going to, for people who are, just jumped on, I want to reiterate a point. If Murkowski does this, there are a lot of ways you can be poisoned by Trumpism, a lot of different ways. And one of them is to decide that the rest of the country can go screw itself while you say, but I took care of my people. Like, that is a very Trump thing to do, right? And that's what Murkowski's doing right now. But I think that this idea that it won't impact Trump voters, yes, it will. Like, it goes right at the new part of the coalition, which is why you get so mad about that woman and why I like her so much as an example of the sort of way of, I'm so afraid of this passing, but like, and because it's going to affect me so negatively, but I like what Trump's doing on trans people. Because I think that is a trade-off that they thought about in the voting booth that they are not going to like when it goes into effect.
Yeah. And so this is the question. I mean, so they can't stop this from hurting all of their people, right? So, Jonathan, there are going to be like 11 million people, give or take, who lose their coverage because of this. Of those, they are, we think, predominantly Republican type voters, right? I'm relying on your analysis of this. Can you give people the 30-second explanation of why we think that?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to tell for sure, but it looks like there was a poll recently that Medicaid recipients as a whole actually slightly favored Trump in the last election over Harris. If you look at if you sort of break it down district by district, it tilts a little bit more towards the blue districts, but that's just the Medicaid part. If you look at the Affordable Care Act part, that definitely tilts more towards Trump voters. And a lot of this has to do with the fact that as we've been discussing here for weeks, the Republican coalition has changed, and you have a lot more of these sort of working poor, working class voters who used to vote Democratic who are now voting Republican. But these are the people who benefit from expanded Medicaid and from the Affordable Care Act subsidies. And so if you cut those back, they're going to feel it. Yeah.
And so, Sarah, they're trying to see if they can protect just enough of those people to not lose them, right? But here's the other thing. Like, Trump has realized that, and this is my theory, I don't think these people will ever blame Trump for this. I think they'll blame their Republican representatives. I think they are, certainly they could lose it. But what does Trump care if a bunch of Republicans lose? He doesn't care about passing legislation anyway. He wants to rule by fiat. And so for him, it's like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I think this is very right. The idea that what is Trump doesn't care about Congress. He doesn't listen to Congress. All he wants, the only reason he would care is that Democrats can make his life hard in a way that Republicans like to make his life easy. And so, but also Trump kind of likes to have Democrats there as a foil.
As a foil, right?
Right?
Yeah.
Because for Trump, it's all just theater. It's not like he wants to pass this one bill because he wants to fund his immigration priorities. And then mainly Trump wants to say, like, I passed a bunch of things. Like, we passed this. Oh, and it did all these wonderful things, but like when they use it, and they will, and it will be effective against the Republicans in races in 2026. I can't think of a better. I mean, healthcare is the one place, and like protecting these benefits, like that's what Democrats are there to do. That's like the one thing they still really can say, like, we do this.
The bill is passed.
It just passed. Yeah.
Do you guys want to? Do you want to hear the audio? Do you care enough to hear that?
Did Murkowski voted for it?
She did.
What was the actual vote? Did JD Vance have to break the tie?
Yep.
50-50. So who got off the hook and voted against it, Jonathan?
Collins, Tillis, and Paul.
Okay. Well, there you go. That's interesting. Have we ever had, I wonder, somebody will have to do this, just an actual head count of bills passed in a Congress? This is going to wind up as one of the least productive Congresses, I mean, certainly in modern history. Normally Congress at least passes a whole bunch of meaningless, like, sense of the Congress type bills. I think they had passed like 5 or 7 pieces of legislation leading up to this, and there's this. And I suspect we'll get almost nothing before the midterm elections, which are still a year and a half out. Does this feel at all to you guys like an empire sort of fraying at the seams? Like basic, again, if this were a scene in a history book, right, that you're reading about, like whatever the Gibbon is about the decline and fall of the American empire, and they talked about how, and they, they're just scribbling notes back and forth on a piece of paper on a napkin in the chamber, trying to get through this bill that nobody had read, that lards on another $3 trillion in debt, and for the only thing they could pass. That is our potted view of how dysfunctional the American democracy had become and why it fell. Like it would fit, wouldn't it? As an anecdote? No, Sarah, you're giving me your grimace.
Well, you just always have to be so maximalist. Like they passed this crappy bill in the most like janky way, and it's an embarrassment. And but like the end of an empire. I don't know that I think this bill is that thing.
No, I'm not saying that it is. I'm not saying this. I'm just saying, doesn't this feel like a scene from that? Right? Like this is how democracies that can no longer function, this is how they operate in the waning days.
I mean, I don't know. They still look, I think that reconciliation is really bad. It's also how we've passed a lot of things. Like they did Biden's thing through reconciliation, his Build Back Better. And like this is a dysfunction of trying to do an end run around the filibuster. And so like it is dysfunction to be sure, but they did just get a vote, and they did it kind of in the horse trading way that they do it. It's more chaotic. It's with less deliberative debate for the American people, like we did with the ACA. Like there's like this is not me defending it whatsoever. They're still passing laws. Like it's like on the slope down, but it's not the end point. Like I think I don't think we're in the pitch black yet. I don't know, but Jonathan can say what he thinks.
Yeah, I mean, I'm less bothered by the reconciliation part. I'm a lifelong hater of the filibuster and think the Senate should be majority rule.
Well, then just get rid of the filibuster instead of that. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
For sure. And that's what I would do. I mean, this whole reconciliation, let's just get rid of it for once and for all and have it be a majority chamber. The part about that it gets to me, I mean, it's just so obvious what's going on here, which is this thing is unpopular. We're just going to ram it through as fast as we can. We're not even going to show it to people. We're voting on bills of enormous consequence 5 days after the language, or in this case, we got the language. I mean, it popped in my social media feed, I think 45 seconds before the final vote. And it's just very clear the MO here is we can't let people know what's in this. We can't let people focus on what's in this. So we're just going to throw it all together, negotiate it, behind closed doors, and then spring it on people and see if we can ram it through. This is the antithesis of deliberate democracy. So in that sense, I do think it's sort of a clip of a declining democracy, and also just substantively, so much of this feels so just needlessly self-destructive. I mean, forget about the sort of the sort of intelligent, the sort of serious policy debates. Government should be bigger, should be smaller. I mean, things like, cutting off manufacturing, cutting off subsidies for factories that are being built. That is like our best chance to compete with China, for example, on, the future of energy, and just cutting that off. I mean, that to me, I think of any single, I get worked up about the healthcare stuff, but I look 20 years down the road, 30 years down the road. And when we're not energy, we're totally, behind and dependent on other countries for all this new technology and energy that we can't do because we just undercut it when we had a chance to catch up. I mean, that to me is a sign of a kind of empire in decline.
Yeah, we also, we do have Q2 economic data coming down the pipe at us pretty soon. Going to be interesting to see if we get a second straight quarter of contraction, which would put us in an official recession. First, like, man-made recession, maybe ever. Sarah, can I ask you to put on your strategist hat?
Yeah.
And if I were the Democratic Party and I came to you and I said, Sarah, tell me how to attack this thing and how to make them pay, what would you tell me? Who would you say to target? And how would you tell me to attack?
Okay, well, this is why this is like the simplest down the middle pitch is they cut benefits for you to give tax cuts to rich people. And this is a thing that voters understand, and that Trump doesn't really have a good response. That is exactly what they've done. Right. So I like tax cuts. I don't like tons and tons of taxes, but just as an objective matter, what they have done is to give, these are not tax cuts for low income people or tax cuts. It is tax cuts for wealthy people. And they are paying for it on the backs of the poorest people. And I think you can ride that particular message all day long with Trump voters. And JBL, to your point about, do they not blame Trump and instead blame their local Republican? Maybe. I mean, the ads are certainly going to say, ex-Republican congressman and senator voted for it. So, I mean, the one person, it's interesting, Tillis stepping down. One of the things that whoever replaces him will have going for them is that they didn't vote for this because they weren't in the chamber.
Right. So they can say they liked it and they love Trump, but they don't actually have the vote hanging around them.
And can I just say, I'm obsessed, just like John is obsessed with the healthcare aspects of this. I'm obsessed with the moderate Republican aspect of this. So basically, Susan Collins is up. Lisa Murkowski is not. And so whatever deal just went into place was them saying, we're going to let Collins off the hook because she won't be able to defend this when she's running. But Murkowski isn't up again. She just won in 2024. And so they're making her, or not making her, because you know what?
They can't make her. She chooses.
She chose this. I mean, they did all the things they could to buy her off. And I will, I'm trying not to be an insane person on this live cast. I couldn't be angrier at Lisa Murkowski. And I mean personally angry.
Welcome to my world. Give in to the hate, young Jedi.
No, it's not hate. It is the deepest of disappointment. Because here's the thing. If you're Murkowski, you have fashioned yourself all this time as a sensible person. And look, and she's good at bringing stuff home for her state, and that's okay. You should be responsive to your constituents, but not at the expense of the entire country. And the fact that she has not stood up in this moment, these are life-defining moments for people. You know who? I bet John McCain never once regretted his thumbs down. No. And Lisa Murkowski, I think, will regret this because she knows it's a bad bill. And she knows what she did was take a payoff for herself. And it's a really sickening thing to watch.
And this is a woman who was just a few weeks ago crying about how, what a scary time it is to be elected because there are all these people out who want to do violence against her. Which people is it? Is it the trans folks out to do violence against Lisa Murkowski? I don't think so. It's Republican voters, but that's okay. I have a question though. What do you guys think? Do you think this is enough to save Susan Collins? And is she going to get it both ways? Is she going to get it from a MAGA primary challenge and then a quality Democrat? Or do you think she avoids the primary challenge?
I bet that's what they gave. I bet they well, I don't know. I mean, my guess is just like there was some meeting. Like I assume there was a meeting with Thune, like that they horse traded with the moderates and we're like, you three, like Tillis is retiring now, so he can vote no on it. Rand actually I think is principled opposition, and I think for political reasons they let her go, and then they put all the force onto Murkowski. Is she going to get to have it both ways? A little bit. I think unless Trump calls for a primary against her because she voted no. But my guess is Thune has like greased the way on that. I don't know, John. What do you think?
What are your thoughts?
I don't know Maine politics well enough to know the sort of. I know a little bit about Maine politics. I mean, I would be, if I were Collins, I would be. I don't know. I feel like she's in danger even with this vote. I mean, maybe this vote helps her, but isn't she still in danger of getting the sort of stink of Trump on her and just the sort of, being tied to him in a year that could be really, really bad for the Republicans? I think one thing I suspect a lot of the Republicans are telling themselves, well, these cuts won't hit for a while. People won't see them. It'll be a slow burn. And I think this is one of the places where I suspect their rushing the bill through is going to come back to haunt them, because some of the stuff is going to hit. The ACA stuff is going to hit next year. People are going to see higher premiums the way things are going. And take it from the Democrats from 2014 and 13, how that plays. And that is going to, I think that will hurt. Some of this will be there. It'll be fresh in people's minds. So I think you're looking at a bad year for the Republicans. So for Collins, I mean, that to me, I mean, and Maine is a kind of a purple state, right? I mean, it's a weirdly purple state, but it's a purple state. So I imagine this helps her a little bit, but I don't know. I also think a lot of this gets shaped and driven in, the world is not Twitter. The world is not the online activists, but online activists do tend to play, I think, an outsized role in shaping the debate. And I think people are going to call her to account for other things she's done to enable Trump. And I think that hurts her, but who knows?
All right. Last big question for you, Sarah. You are, as am I, somewhat obsessed with the idea of driving down Trump's numbers because everything becomes harder for him the more unpopular he is. Will he be able to duck this? Or is there a way to stick this to him?
There's, of course, a way to stick it to him. And it is a matter of...
Don't say it like it's so obvious. It's,
I got to tell you, I have been watching the ads on cable news right now. They are all from Republicans, or it is all pro-Trump stuff supporting the bill, talking about the good stuff that's in it. I am seeing very little opposition spend against this, except for like maybe some like industry specific stuff, but that's all like targeted at the elites. Democrats, this is where like you have to stick it to Trump. Like it doesn't always just organically happen. It's about Trump is going to say the whole time, we did some amazing things. And you know what?
Look, I got it done. Big win for me.
I got it done. Big win for me. And like, they got to go through this bill. They said it could never happen. They got to go through the bill and take out all the worst stuff and put it in ads and hang it on them all day long. And they've got to hammer the red places, the places where they're going to
That's
say,
the real thing, right?
Yeah, they got to go to his
base
voters.
Turnout thing.
And it's not a swing voter thing, because the swing voters are affluent and are glad for their tax cuts.
Yes. So this is, and this is what I was really going to try to drive at with you. Is it the case that if you were advising Democrats, you would say, hey, you should spend $100 million doing ads on Fox and News Nation and OAN,
Yeah.
because those are the people you can sour on Trump.
Now, I'm not sure I would give those guys exactly my money. You
Not-
could just
not
use
exactly.
YouTube. Just use YouTube.
Oh,
Just
YouTube.
do
Okay.
digital advertising and geolocate for all of the rural areas that are about to, because this is what the Republicans are going to do. They're going to be like, look at all the hospital money that we got to try to buy you guys off from the fact that millions of people in your state are going to lose Medicaid and access to healthcare. Like, go right at that stuff. But those aren't the only things that are going to be horrible for people in this bill. There's so much in this bill. And Democrats, because they did it through reconciliation, and unlike the ACA, where there was all this time to debate all the various things, that was what led to death panels and people like going back and forth on like the specifics. Voters won't know what's in this unless somebody tells them. And they won't know how it's going to hurt them potentially unless somebody tells them. And so like that's the thing. And for Democrats, I think, who have been searching and unsure and where's their offense, like this is it. This is it. Go on offense on this.
Between this and the Trump session, again, like the indicators don't look great for Q2. If you just look at like container ship traffic and stuff like that, I do think it is possible that growth will be positive, but if so, it'll be very, very small. It's also possible it's going to be negative. We could be in an actual recession by, August. Like that. It seems like
we'll see. He keeps tacoing on the tariffs, so who knows?
Yeah, I guess I
think that
don't
was
know,
true when he
guys.
was sticking to the tariffs, but now that he's not, and he's just
but they've remained still quite high, though, right?
No,
It's
they
like,
are.
they're
That's
only
true.
30%, right? And 30% is still a lot more than like the 4% average it was before.
Yeah.
He is weirdly good at having it both ways with his base. There was I put in today's newsletter a story from Mississippi about a foreign national from Scandinavia who has been arrested by ICE and sent off to a detention center in Louisiana. It's a big MAGA fan, loves Trump. Do you know who he blames for his arrest, Sarah?
Democrats.
Joe Biden.
Joe Biden. Sure.
It's all Joe Biden's fault. I just thought, I don't know, man. How do you fight that?
But
like, what?
Well, you don't fight it with that guy. That guy's getting
I was
deported.
going to say, aren't there? That guy's not. That guy's politically, that guy's lost, right? You write him off. You don't write him off as a person, but politically, not something he gained. But I do feel, I feel like there are people still persuaded. You don't need that, right? Sarah, you tell me, but I feel like there's enough of an audience out there that is open to some of these arguments, and especially on healthcare. And the other thing, I think, I am not the last person in the world should be sort of drawing up ads and slogans. Ask anyone who's worked with me on a headline at the Bulwark. But it seems to me there are ample opportunities here to run ads, digital ads, and if not on the networks, with, you don't even have to have a politician in them. You just put a real person on them. I lost. I remember that. You remember that Mitt Romney ad that was so devastating in 2012, and a lot of people thought it was unfair. But what made it devastating was you heard from the person who had this story to tell. And there are a million of those stories to tell. There are going to be a million stories to tell. And I just feel like that can break through to people sometimes. Maybe not. I don't know.
Sarah, if only we knew someone who could collect stories of people who have become disillusioned with Trump and get them out into the world. Can you find someone to do that for us, please?
Guys, this is why we've launched Home of the Brave. Home of the Brave is a place where we are collecting stories of the negative personal consequences of Trump's policies. There's going to be a lot of new negative personal consequences as a result of this bill. So go to ofthebrave.org and send my team your story, and they are going to help make sure that people hear it so that people understand that this is hurting real people.
That was not a setup, by the way. That was just...
No, it wasn't. That came about organically.
Yeah,
my team would have been mad if I had whiffed on that, because
I was playing the long game, setting that up.
Yeah,
I knew where I
Thanks,
was going
buddy.
the whole time. Professional transitions. Guys, do you have any final thoughts before we get out of here? Will we get any more legislation, or is this Congress just done? Like they're all set? And should we expect any defections? We were literally 1 week ago, Sarah, you, Tim, and I were doing fantasy politics of why couldn't Lisa Murkowski just become an independent with Susan Collins? Well, it turns out, no, Like,
well, that is off the table now. Like
Yeah.
voting for this is there's no more West Wing fantasy politics about Lisa Murkowski.
No.
Like, and basically Tim was talking about this
she is
earlier.
what we thought she was, right?
Not me.
Not me.
Me.
Uh,
I've been
Well, you
I've been an
think-
anti-Murkowskiite for years. You and I have thought about this going back
Yeah,
6 years in the secret.
yeah, well, there's no point to her anymore. And that this is just the thing. Like, I know there's a lot of people who spent a lot of money so that there could be ranked choice voting in Alaska because they thought it would help somebody like Murkowski not lose to Sarah Palin, right?
Mhm.
And it did, I think. I don't know if Murkowski would have won that primary outright without ranked choice voting. I'm not sure. Here's what I do know. I know what's the difference between having Lisa Murkowski and Sarah Palin at this point. Like, the thing about having Sarah Palin is that it would at least be a more honest expression of who this party is.
Yeah, I don't. And yet, weirdly, I'm almost willing to take the other side of this because having a Sarah Palin type could create more damage. Like, the votes would be the same, but the votes are the least important. I don't believe that's not true. The votes are only part of what they can do. I think having somebody who, but on the other hand, there's the opportunity
No.
cost, as you say, which like provides respectable cover.
Yes. Like, the problem here is that there's a bunch of people being like, well, the bill can't be that bad. Murkowski voted for it.
Yeah.
She's using her credibility as a moderate and conferring it on this bill, which is exactly what Cassidy did with RFK. And that,
Yeah. You're right.
and he should be humiliated about this all day long.
And yet, he won't. No shame and no spite. We were talking about this yesterday. It's weird that none of these people feel spite. Like, Tillis is not just going to go scorched earth on his way out the door. Is not going to start caucusing with Democrats. Cassidy's not ashamed of the RFK thing. He won't even publicly criticize RFK. He'll I don't want to characterize our conversation. No wonder these guys keep losing.
Yeah.
They're a bunch of losers. They're really weak. Trump had them pegged from the start.
Yeah.
All right. Jonathan Cohn, Sarah Longwell of the Bulwark. It's been great being here at, Scenes from the End of a Democracy with you. I can't wait to keep doing it on this channel multiple times a day, every day for the next 3.5 years, at least, maybe longer. Hit subscribe and follow us. And if you're not reading us, go over to thebulwark.com, sign up, get my newsletter at least. It's very good. Many people are saying it's one of the best daily
every day.
newsletters that comes out at 12:30 in all of America. So there it is. Barry, you can take us off. Sarah, best friend, it was good seeing you yesterday. Jonathan Cohn, great to be with you, buddy. Good luck, America.